Good morning. Welcome to A, Parliament House, and B, more excitingly, to HumanAbility's inaugural National Forum. This room is absolutely crawling with people whose mission statement in life and work is to improve the lives of others, and that's why they've booked a journo to MC this thing to balance things out. My name is Annabelle Crabb. I will be your MC today. But before we start on the business of the day, which is making connections between different sectors and all the smart people in this room, let's start with some ancient business first, and that's the courtesy of acknowledging that the work of educating people, the work of healing people, the work of caring for those who need help is something that's been going on in this place since well before the first Jobs and Skills Council was but a twinkle in the minister's eye, and well before this building was built. And so on behalf of all of us, I acknowledge the Ngunnawal and Canberra people, the traditional custodians of this place, and it gives me great pleasure to ask a very distinguished local to welcome us to country, and that's Paul. Paul House was born at the old Canberra Hospital, in the centre of his ancestral country, and is essentially local royalty. He strongly acknowledges his First Nation matriarch ancestors, in particularly his mother, Dr. Auntie Matilda House Williams, very, very well known in this building, and grandmother Ms. Pearl Simpson Wedge. He has multiple First Nation ancestries from the southeast Canberra region, and particularly identifies as a descendant of Onyong, aka Jindamung, from Wirrawa, late George, and Henry Black Harry Williams from Namaji, both multilingual warriors. And Paul has completed also a Bachelor of Community Management from Macquarie University and a graduate certificate in Wiradjuri language. We are very, very lucky to have him here today to welcome us to this special place. So would you please welcome Paul Girawa House.
Amandangu, Waragawari, Annabelle, thank you, Annabelle, and Naramarang, Jumburuburu Marambang, Marinya. Good morning, everyone. Yuandu, Paul Girawa House. My name is Paul Girawa House. Nadu Maradu Mare Biringo Gujigango Nyambri Nuru Nurumbango. I was born here at the centre of my ancestral country at the old Canberra Hospital. God bless it. Anyone born in the old Canberra Hospital? Great to see some hospital alumni here this morning with me. Baladu Nyambri Canberra Woglu Wallabalo Nunawa Radri Gibarama Nyambri Canberra Woglu Nunawa Wallabalo Radri Man Yinjamara Nadu Maradu Nama Dr. Matilda Williams House. My respects to my mother, Dr. Matilda Williams House. Because of her I can, and my respects to all the matriarchs in the room. Because of our matriarchs we all can in this country, I think. Yilingalangbu, Gibabangu, Wogabu, Migabu, Diranilbang, Mayin. Ladies and gentlemen, young men, young women, distinguished guests, Nyari Njamali, Nyambri, Guma, Woglu, Wallabalawa, Nunawa, Nagariga, Waradri, Mujigang, Yanang Bujayandu. My respects to Nyambri, Canberra, Woglu, Wallabalawa, Nunawa, Nagariga, Waradri, elders past and present. Nyari Njamarabu, Mujigangu, Nurumbanjigu, Ninya Yiridu. My respects to all people and First Nation people from all parts of the country. Nyambri, Canberra, Woglu, Wallabalawa, Nunawa, Mayin, Gaim Banya, Ninyoga, Nurumbangodara, Nyambri, Canberra, Woglu, Wallabalawa, Nunawa people, welcome you all to country. Mayin Guliala Gulbara, Injamaro Giju Bala, respecting human abilities. Nadu Wuragabigi, Balabambo Gubu, Balagi Bangubu, going Guliala Dumbali now, Murawai Marambo. We listen to the old people, the ancestors, the elders, and they show us the good path, the right path, the straight path. Going Guliala, Bilingali now, Yamamali now, Wallamali now. They nurture us, they guide us, they protect us. Mambawara Naminyugu, Wuragabinya, Wuradaregu, Winingalago, Baligo, looking to see, listening to hear, and learning to understand. Niani Yinjmali, Nurabangila Balanin, Wallawin, Ganga, Bangba, Yaningingo, Niani, Mawang Yao, Biligi Gila, Yamam Bilgiri Yani, Marambo Bagarigan, Yaningingo. We look after country so it is healthy for our children, for all of our people, and we teach and we learn what is right for all on country. Noi goi malang marambang malang. It's wonderful, it's beautiful to be on country. Nei mura buramba bira nurambango, always to share this welcome to country. Muramaginya yinjamara, muramuru wirambira nurambango. Living a respectful way of life cares for country. Yinjamara wirambira marando gobo, gira gobo, yando gobo. Respect is taking responsibility for the now, the past, the present, and the future. Yinjamal gijul, yinjamali, yinjamarabo. It's a powerful word on country, a meaning, it's a way of life, and it means many good things. To go slow, be patient, be polite, be gentle, take responsibility. All those good things that we gift every day in this country, that 65,000-year gift from our people to everyone in this country. We talk about that shared gift and that shared history, which is now a shared history that belongs to all of us, and we all have a responsibility in looking after our people and country. We talk about the acceptance of that gift, the love, respect, the safety, the belonging, the security, the sacrifice, the morals, the values, the nurturing and the shelter, the caring. It all goes on. That's our gift as First Nation people in this country, and it has been since 1788. Our welcome to countries are always made in the spirit of peace and a desire for harmony for all people of modern Australia, and our main aim always to establish an atmosphere of mutual respect through the acknowledgement of our ancestors and the recognition of our rights to declare our special place in the pre and post history of the Canberra region. The name Canberra is derived from the name of our people and country right here, the Nyambri, Namburul, Nyambri, Canberra. In language it means to sleep, to camp, to lie down, and it was recorded on the 22nd of January 1834 under the New South Wales colonial government, Canberra Station, where I work at the ANU. Muru bango bala winganagu yambo wan bango nara nara. First to know the nature of things is the ANU motto here on country. Yinja mal giju, yinja marabu. Yinja marabala nama yinja marabala boya niyang nurumbango bagarigan, respecting language, law, people and country. We want to see our children grow up in a society that acknowledges, respects and honours First Nation people, and we believe we're entitled to a greater share in the wealth and prosperity in this country. Maragaladal, Walan Mayan, Mayangalang. Hold fast to each other, empower the people. Walangunmala, Mara Maragure, be brave, make change. Diriyawana, Murawara, Nawanbira. Get up, stand up and show up. It's wonderful we're all here, showed up here today. Mara Mara Nya Girma Maranya. Respect shapes us and lifts up the people. Yinjamal Giju Mara Wininga Gigalana Mayin. Respect creates people who care for each other. Gawayambana Nina Nurambango. Welcome to country. I want to play a song before I go on the Yidaki here. So Mandangu, Wuruguri, welcome to country. Thank you very much.
Paul, thank you so much for enveloping us not only in music but also musical language and the language of respect. It's a perfect way for us to begin our enterprise today. And I'd also like to thank you for your generosity and grace in being with us today. This has been a hard year for humanity in general, but I think few would disagree that for First Nations Aussies it's been especially difficult, partly because of the outcome of this year's referendum, but also overwhelmingly because of the tone of some of the discussion that surrounded that democratic event. And there'll be many people in this room in pain. I acknowledge that pain, and I hope that we can all commit to be open at all times to learning from the ancient wisdoms around us as well as the new ones. And Paul, thank you for continuing to extend the hand of friendship. It would be remiss of me not to mention that there are nearly 200 people joining us online. We can't hear them. Sorry, people. But we're very conscious of them. We're glad that they're here. And we also acknowledge the many, many other custodians of lands from which those 175 odd are beaming in to be with us today. Now, I'm going to crack along because we have a historic opportunity today, a new organisation, a new framework that allows everybody in this room to be on the same team, learning from your colleagues in other sectors, working out which problems and opportunities you have in common. It makes so much sense. And we're going to ram as much of it as we can into today. It is a packed program. Think of it as HumanAbility speed dating, but without the creepy elements. It's almost more important to listen to the sessions that are not about your specific sector than it is your own sector-specific session. So each session is going to start with a keynote, followed by a panel discussion. I will throw in some questions, and then it's open to you. We'll have mics going around the room. I will do my absolute best to keep things kicking along. This may involve barking at you periodically to sit down as we desperately try to maintain our time advantage that we've already established this morning. So it's time to meet the parents. So could I ask you to welcome, please, HumanAbility's Chair and its CEO, Rob Bonner and Emma King.
Thank you, Annabelle, and welcome everyone to our first Industry Engagement Forum. And it does feel as though we are the sort of proud parents of this new enterprise. I guess that it would be remiss of me not to sort of talk about why we're in this room. And when we were first forming this company, we wanted to announce to the world we were here, announce to the world that we wanted to make a difference and have impact, and to put our industries at the centre of the policy agenda moving forward, when so often they've been overlooked by other so-called more productive industries within the economy. So we're better to have that announcement made that we were here, that we intended to make a difference, and that our industries need attention and policy commitment than Parliament House. I think that I wanted to also say that in building this company, we wanted to make a difference in terms of the way we did our work. So inclusiveness of our stakeholders, reaching out to industry partners, reaching out to education providers, to students and new graduates who are all represented around the table today, will be a feature of how we do our work into the future. And perhaps if I can invite some impromptu audience participation by, and this is high risk because I didn't tip anyone off, but for those of you who were part of the initial stakeholder group that set up the bid to form this company, can you stand up, please? Yeah, you were there. Yeah. So there are a number of people, there were about 20 of us, I think, in the beginning that put the pitch to the federal government to form this company, a mix of industry associations, of unions, of employers in the sector. Without their commitment and risk to their organisations, we just wouldn't have been here. So I just wanted to acknowledge that group who took the punt on us. Secondly, our board, who grew out of that particular group. And again, if I can ask the board members who are in the room to stand. You have been with us as we've gone through this wild ride over the last several months in forming the company and getting us to the starting point. So I just want to acknowledge the hard work and support that you've provided to us in that way through. And finally, and it's not always been easy, our government stakeholder engagement team from DEWA. Jen, I saw you in the room earlier. So thank you to DEWA for the support you've given us as our funder and contract managers and support squad to the work and getting us to this start. Stakeholder engagement will, as I've said, be multi-layered as we go through the process. So we've already formed our industry advisory committees, and I'm sure Emma will go to that sort of shortly. We're going to have a significant presence online, our technical advisory groups, these industry forums, the road shows that are planned for early next year. So there's a whole range of ways we'll be reaching out and working with industry as we move forward. And I wanted to thank our industry panellists, our expert speakers for today, and finally to acknowledge the magnificent work that's been done by our staff team, many of whom are in their first weeks or months of activity, to get us from a point where we didn't exist in December last year to today, when we have a couple of hundred people in the room and another couple of hundred people in the virtual room watching over our work. So thank you to all of you who've brought us to this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob, and to everyone who you acknowledged, because we are so indebted to you. If I can begin by also acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land that we meet on today, pay my respects to elders past, present, to emerging leaders, and acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded. And I know that I believe Paul has stepped out, but I would like to really acknowledge the fabulous welcome to country that he gave and the generosity of spirit with which he welcomed us all here today. And I think alongside the standing up, etc., that he mentioned, there's a big role for us all to play in walking alongside and accepting the hand of generosity which has been offered to us. I am thrilled to be here today. It feels quite surreal. For those of you who have been with us a little bit along the journey, I think this is about the start of, I've been about 2 months at HumanAbility, and we're a very new organisation, as Rob mentioned, as well. And a number of you joined us when we were in Alice Springs only a couple of weeks ago, when we had our rural and our regional forum, and it was fabulous to see so many people together as we talked about some of the issues that we're really facing, the organisations that you work with, run, consumers of, etc., and how we would work together. And what I'm going to do just to start with is take a little step back, because one of the things that I did realise in Alice Springs is I was thinking that everyone came into the room knowing exactly who we were and how we were formed, etc. And I'm not going to labour the point, but I think it's really interesting to do the step back and to talk about a little bit about the who we are and the why we're here. So in terms of HumanAbility, the Jobs and Skills Councils have been formed by the federal government. They're very new. We're often, a few of us are in literally our kind of second months or third months of operation. And they came about through what was about 67 different organisations that existed alongside another 7 skills councils to be formed into 10 Jobs and Skills Council. Each Jobs and Skills Council has its own areas of priority, and obviously for us it's looking at health, human services, and we particularly call out aged care and disability by virtue of the Royal Commissions, early childhood education and care, and sport and recreation. So no small feat, millions of workers, as I'm going to speak about in a moment as well. But we're really proud that we're working with government, with industry, with unions, and looking at how we collectively drive change, and I'll talk to that in a moment. So we're a tripartite model, as I just mentioned, in terms of looking at government, unions and employers. And I think that's really important, because we know that when it comes to driving change, we know we've got to be able to work together. And sometimes that involves being able to negotiate where there are different points of view and different positions on things. But actually, how do we come together to drive the greater good? So we're pretty excited about having that opportunity as well. In terms of looking at the ecosystem in which we form, one of the roles that HumanAbility has, and we've got a few really key roles that are important to talk about. So one is looking at industry stewardship. And when we look at the industry stewardship across the industries that we represent, that's a really significant role, and one that we must do alongside all of you. So when it comes to stakeholder engagement, as Rob mentioned, the work that we do with you is within our DNA, basically. We won't be able to function without being able to literally walk alongside and craft views together. We're mindful that we operate within a broader ecosystem, and some of the issues that we are navigating within HumanAbility, particularly when it comes to, and I'll talk about the language in a moment, but I know many of you understandably do not like the terms when it comes to the care and support economies, because I'm just picturing many of you, for just to pick one example, early childhood, who will quite correctly say to me, Emma, we don't do childcare, we educate. Yes, we care for children, but we are key educators, we are qualified, and we change the life trajectory of children, and that is absolutely right. So there's some challenges in terms of looking at language on that front as well. So going back to our role, it's industry stewardship, it's looking at workforce development, and it's looking also at making sure that we've got really relevant training packages that are going to deliver the workforce of the future. So we're very focused on how we recruit, how we retrain, how we retain, and how we attract the workers of the future and the people that we need. It's always a really interesting conversation about productivity, and I suspect Ange will chat about this shortly, as I know Sarah Charlesworth will talk about today, but it's a really interesting question when you get to the people industries about how do you do things like measure productivity? How do you measure what does a good life look like? How do you measure what does a good death look like? How do you measure what care looks like? What are the things that actually sit alongside that? Because we're not producing widgets. We are caring about people in the literal sense. So there's a number of challenges that we've got to address on that front. But our role within the broader ecosystem means that we're working alongside you, because we know that all of you are working alongside other issues such as pay and conditions, because our sectors traditionally are not recognised for the extraordinary worth and the critical role that we play within our community. We're not going to get replaced by robots. The work that we might do may well be enhanced by AI and a whole host of other things, but we are people. We are the industry, and we're actually the industry of the future. We're the fastest growing industry, we're 15% of the economy, and there's plenty more that are coming. But it's important that we work alongside you, because while we don't have the role, for example, of looking at pay and conditions, we're really cognizant of the work that's taking place when it comes to areas such as the Royal Commissions into disability and into aged care, the roles that unions have to play around pay and conditions, and looking at how do we work with you to bring those things together, because we know that not one of us on our own is going to be able to deliver the very changes that we need, and actually everything that our communities and everything that our society needs going into the future as well. So we're one part of an ecosystem, and we're thrilled to be working with all of you, because we know that we've got our respective roles to play within that ecosystem as well. So in terms of looking at how we bring together, we just thought, given that we're very new, we literally finished our strategic plan about a couple of weeks ago. I think it was day 2 when I started that we were like, right, let's do our strategic plan. This gives you a very quick snapshot. It's being going through the departmental processes, etc. at the moment. But looking at, just to give you a flavour of how we plan to work, and I think a lot of it is around the how we plan to work in terms of being inclusive and accountable, etc. And we are particularly focused on how we do that, and how we do that from the outset. In terms of looking at our sectors, I won't labour this slide given that you all know who you are and why you're here, but one of the things I think that unites us in a really interesting way when you cut across health, human services, early childhood education and sport and recreation is a focus on wellbeing, and a focus on wellbeing when it comes to life, a focus on preventative health, and looking at actually how we change people's life trajectories. We're literally, well, really pre-birth through to end of life. And each of these sectors is growing. Each of them has areas of difference, but also an extraordinary number of issues of commonality, particularly when it comes to looking at extraordinary workforce need, but that, again, that focus on people. Alongside issues that sit alongside that, of course, such as often precarious employment, highly casualised, highly gendered, and not particularly well paid. In terms of looking at our role, as I mentioned earlier, you just see there captured the key components of the Jobs and Skills Councils more broadly, and of HumanAbility in terms of industry stewardship, workforce development, training, product development, and looking at that implementation, monitoring, etc. And we want to work with all of you, and we're very focused on how we do that stepping forward. So in terms of what we do, you'll see there in terms of looking at the industry insights that we work together, this is one of the opportunities that we have to do that. And there's a range of committees that we work with. So our industry committees that have been set up, the consultations that are being set up, the workforce report, and we did have to do a very first iteration of a workforce report, which was kind of flies in the face of the stakeholder work that we're very keen to do, we are doing, in that before we were really established in the way that we are now, we needed to create a workforce report, and so we did that as really what was a desktop review, and we're taking the opportunity as well over the next few days to test that with you to the degree that we can, to sort of say, what did we get right, what did we miss, help us build on that, because we're really conscious of building on what we learnt in Alice Springs, but this is a very iterative process for us, and when we do our next workforce report, what we want is that for everyone in this room to have had their voices heard and to see their feedback captured within that report as well. So you'll see there in terms of what some of our key outputs are. We've also got some key training packages, if you like, that we've been asked to focus on as well. And I have to say, I reckon I've been lobbied by pretty much everyone in this room. So I'll just give you a prior warning. I get it. I've heard you. I reckon I've had everything from looking at, we have been asked to focus, just to name it up, on some particular training that's related to aged care and disability. But I've been lobbied on everything from playgroups to Pilates. And I promise I've heard each and every one of you. We'll be looking at how we pull together our lists and how we bring that together as well. But we're really looking forward to that and developing policy and advice based on your insights as well. So that's fundamentally it from me for the moment. I did just want to acknowledge, and it's great having Alicia Payne here today as well, really the foresight of the federal government in setting up the Jobs and Skills Councils and setting up this joint opportunity that we have that covers every industry across our nation, but also enabling within each of the 10 Jobs and Skills Council our chance to have our voice, our chance to highlight the key issues. And when it comes to human ability and the sectors, all of you that are represented in this world and in this room, we know that one of the challenges that we've had within our workforces traditionally is we simply have not had the attention that our workforces deserve. Now, we've seen significant changes in that front in more recent times, so we just need to look at the employment white paper where this sector is called out, the Jobs and Skills Australia report where we're identified as a mega trend. We know that we've got the care and support strategy that will be released by the Prime Minister later this year or early next year. So this is our moment in the sun, and my view is our moment in the sun is going to keep on coming because we are big, we are a powerhouse, we're growing, and we've got this extraordinary opportunity together. So I'm really thrilled about that. I'm thrilled to be here in the room with you today and to be working with all of you. So welcome. It's fabulous to be here, and I'm really excited to work with you over the next few days, but also well beyond that as well. So thank you very much.